So it's been like 2 months since my last video, which I'm super sorry about. I meant to make some videos on Armageddon, and then I had a couple other things planned, but college as usual always kind of had different ideas, and I also had COVID, and it was like a whole thing where I didn't really have time to make anything, which is why I haven't gotten to make any videos on Superman and Lois Season 2 until now, which is really unfortunate because Superman and Lois is like my favourite current show. I really wanted to make videos on it, and it's just only happening now. But this video is going to kind of be my general thoughts on all 3 of the Season 2 episodes so far, but with a heavy sort of look at the most recent episode because it was by far the biggest that we've seen yet this season. But really quick before properly starting this video, I just want to ask if you can subscribe if you haven't already. I make DC videos as much as I can, and we're actually doing pretty good subscriber wise, especially since I haven't really been uploading. But it will be awesome to finally hit 1,000 subscribers this year, which I think is pretty doable going at the current pace. So if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate a help out with that sub. But yeah, Superman and Lois is 3 episodes into its 2nd season, and it is already an incredibly different season than what Season 1 was. And if I'm being completely honest, I have no idea how I'm actually feeling on this season. I'm enjoying the hell out of it for sure, but it just feels quite a bit different than Season 1, and I can't quite put my finger on why. For one, I think that Season 2 already feels far more serialized than Season 1 did, because Season 1 had this feel to it, Season 1 was definitely serialized, but it had this feel to it where there was a lot of little one-off things happening in every episode. Like there were a bunch of times where there would be a villain just for one episode, or there would be something happening that would be completely finished up or wrapped up in one episode, and problems and stuff like that. Season 2 hasn't really had that feel to it, and there's definitely been little things like Tulloch and stuff being like a 1-episode deal, but in general, I feel like Season 1 had a lot more of those one-off kind of things happening so far than Season 2 does, and Season 2 is very much focused where every episode is devoted to this storyline, to pushing along the storyline of the season, with nothing really else happening. This absolutely isn't a bad thing. I want to emphasize that this isn't something I'm annoyed about, or this isn't something I'm sad about. I just want to kind of talk about how different this is to Season 1, because honestly the fact that this season really does feel like everything is about the main plot, it makes this show feel more streaming service like. It makes the show feel like it's more on HBO Max or it's more on Netflix than it does on CW. But I'm just genuinely not sure if I personally prefer this format or the Season 1 format where every episode there'd be a problem to fix or there'd be something to sort out. Anyway, moving on from that for a minute, there is a lot happening in this season. I guess a good place to begin is talking about Bizarro, or possibly even a mix of Doomsday and Bizarro, 2 Superman villains. I have a feeling they might do what they did with Tulloch and Morgan Edge, where it ended up being the Eradicator and Morgan Edge, so 2 Superman villains made of 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to do that again with Doomsday and Bizarro. Now, I was a little taken aback at this reveal just because of how I was kind of really into the idea of a proper adaptation of Doomsday, and by extension, a proper adaptation of Death of Superman and then Reign of the Superman. Mainly because outside of the animated movies, there has never really been a proper adaptation of these characters and this storyline. Batman v Superman used probably the worst version of Doomsday ever put to screen, and also a really rushed version of Death of Superman. Now, I actually do really like Batman v Superman, but I think that the one thing that film does not do right is Doomsday and its rushed version of Death of Superman. Smallville had a sort of adaptation, but again, wasn't in any way what a straight up adaptation would look like, and then Krypton also had some big plans for the character before that show was inevitably cancelled. I just think that with the amount of characters this show has, a real adaptation of that storyline could make for some really compelling television if done right. And so throwing Bizarro into this mix was kind of something that I felt started to dilute what could have been a really interesting storyline. Now again, I'm not trying to get too bogged down on this because Superman and Lois loves to throw curveballs every single week, which means anything I'm annoyed about now could easily not be what's part of the show anymore by next episode. Plus, I can't be too mad considering this is literally the exact same situation that happened with John Henry Irons and with Tulloch, where we were kind of shown one character and then it was revealed to be somebody else. But yeah, like I said, I think we might get kind of a deal where we're getting 2 Superman villains in one, so it's totally possible that this version of Bizarro is like slowly becoming Doomsday or something, and by the very end of the season we'll have something that looks just like comic book Doomsday. I also want to really quick talk about Bizarro for a second, because the design does look awesome. Like, the little purple hints on the costume look great, the reverse of everything looks great, the fact he speaks in reverse English is awesome. They're also really trying to make him kind of sympathetic already, since his reverse dialogue kind of suggests he just wants to be left alone. So I'm really interested to see what they're doing with this and with the character in general. Where this Bizarro came from is something I'm really interested to find out. Now, it's totally possible that he comes from Bizarro World, which is where he's from in the comics, and they can just kind of play that off as Bizarro World being an alternate Earth in the multiverse. But the fact that he was in the mines and the DoD were interested in him makes me think he's more so just like a failed experiment they're working on. It would make sense that maybe Anderson has been trying to create a clone of Superman for his special team, and that experiment has failed, leading to the creation of Bizarro. And I think from a storytelling standpoint, this makes the most sense, because it would lead to a natural confrontation between Clark and Anderson about all this. Another reason why this might work is because in the Death of Superman comic, a bunch of minor Justice League members try and stop Doomsday in his rampage, and they basically fail miserably. And this is sort of the first way that the readers learn how seriously dangerous Doomsday is. So I think something really interesting would be if they sort of adapt this similarly with Bizarro and Anderson's Superman of America. Maybe he realizes that his experiment can be controlled, so he sends his team to bring it in. Or sorry, maybe he realizes his experiment can't be controlled, and so he sends his team in, and Bizarro just completely obliterates them. And this is the first time that we as the viewers kind of see how dangerous this character is. Now, a reason that might go towards the alternate Earth thing is that I believe they say something came true when referring to something coming through the mines. That might mean that there is some kind of like different dimension portal in there that leads to a different Earth or leads to a different dimension, and that's what they're referring to. Like, they knew something was there, they threw some bait in to see if something would come in, and something did cross over. Now, this would honestly explain the headaches Clark is experiencing, since Batwoman Season 1 showed us that doppelgangers can no longer exist on one Earth at the same time without dying. This happened with Beth Kane over on Batwoman, and she only lasted a couple days, so the reason Clark isn't dying yet could be because of his Kryptonian physiology. And I'm betting on the experiment option being likely just because I can't really see the Superman and Lois writers using lore that was established in an episode of Batwoman, but I'd be really into the multiverse idea. I think that the multiverse idea is much more interesting than a failed experiment kind of thing. Besides this though, we have a bunch of other storylines happening this season. Probably the most interesting for me is Lois investigating the cult that Lucy was a part of. Now, we know that Lucy Lane will be showing up in episode 4 next week, so I think we're about to get into some pretty big territory with this plot. The cult leader, Ali Alston, is seriously giving off bad vibes, but there's actually a character in the comics called Alexandra Alston who is a version of the Superman villain called Parasite, so it's really possible they're actually going to see a version of that character adapted this year as well. I'm not too positive on that though, just because like the names are a little bit too different that it could easily be a coincidence, but also because I personally would like Lois's story this season not to involve supervillains, not to involve superpowers, just to be like an investigative journalist kind of plot where she's investigating the cult or whatever, and also just being related to her family, because it would be nice to have a storyline that doesn't require Superman to save her. But this plotline is really interesting so far, and it's definitely the second biggest plotline of the season after everything happening with Bizarro. Other than that, we have some major stuff going on with Lana. She's running for mayor, and I'm somewhat into this plot just because I'm glad the Cushing family are getting their own big storyline, because I was a little worried that once the Talrow stuff was wrapped up, that we wouldn't have anything for them to do, so keeping them around would just be like this sort of, you don't want to get rid of the cast members, but I like that they actually did give them a proper plot. There's also some stuff going on with Jordan and Sarah, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't really want to touch this, mainly because I think in the current situation, both Jordan and Sarah are saying and doing things they shouldn't be, and honestly this is by far the most CW style drama we've had in the show, and so I'm not really here for it. Another thing is Jonathan is going to take some Kryptonite apparently or something, and I have no idea where this is heading, but it could be that this is how they'll figure out that Jonathan actually has powers or something, like the XK affects him differently than humans because he's half Kryptonian, and it kickstarts his latent abilities or something, which I'm curious about the storyline because it really could be something great if they write it well, or they could seriously botch it and it could end up being a weak point of the season, so we'll wait and see. And the other final thing I got to talk about is Natalie and John Henry, which is, it's I'm not sure how I feel in this storyline so far. John Henry's had a great suit-up scene in episode 3, and Natalie is understandably kind of worried about John being so active as Steel again, but it's something like Jonathan where we don't really have enough of an idea where the storyline is going, so it's kind of hard to talk about. But yeah, the season is definitely a lot different vibe-wise than season 1. If we were to judge the first 3 episodes of season 1 against the first 3 episodes of season 2, I would probably personally say that season 1 has the better 3 episodes. But this season does just kind of feel like more of a slow burn, or more like it's really setting the stage for what is going to happen later on. After episode 4 next week, we're going to have a 2-week break because of the Olympics, so I'll hopefully be able to get some more Superman and Lois videos out, or just videos at all out before then. And if you're one of the recent new subscribers, I just want to welcome you to the channel, and thank you for everyone for watching, and if you're not subscribed yet, please do so, and like and share and all of that, and I hope you have an awesome day.